3 months had passed since a sniper's bullet had torn through Harrison's chest. 3 months of recovery, of physical therapy, of his enemies claiming he was finished, but they had underestimated him again. "You're not seriously considering this," Nova said, watching Harrison check his suit in the mirror. The scar on his chest was still visible as he buttoned his shirt. "The last rally nearly killed you." Nearly being the operative word, Harrison replied with that familiar determined smile. "Besides the elections in 2 weeks, people need to hear this message directly." I shared a concerned look with Fang. Since the last assassination attempt, we'd upgraded every aspect of our security. Better sensors, better protocols, better everything. But Harrison's enemies had also stepped up their game. "Sir," I said carefully, "the medical team hasn't cleared you for—" "The medical team," Harrison cut me off, "doesn't get to decide if I let these corrupt bureaucrats steal an election. Some things are worth the risk, Rex." Whiskers, monitoring our security feeds, spoke up. "Speaking of risks, you should see the crowd gathering at Victory Plaza. It's massive." He wasn't exaggerating. The feed showed thousands of people flooding the area, more than any previous rally. The attempted assassinations, rather than frightening people away, had only strengthened their resolve. "Your last speech really struck a nerve," Nova observed. "People are starting to understand what's really at stake." Harrison nodded, finally satisfied with his appearance. The past months had aged him, but there was a new steel in his eyes. "They understand because they've seen the truth. They've watched their so-called leaders try to kill me rather than let me expose their corruption. They've seen neodogs protect civilians while government forces stood by. Truth, once seen, can't be unseen." A priority alert flashed across our tactical displays. Detective Morrow's face appeared on our secure channel. "Got some chatter you need to hear," she said without preamble. "They're planning something big. Multiple teams, high-end tech. They're treating this like their last chance to stop you before the election." "Good," Harrison said before any of us could object. "Let them try. Let everyone see exactly what they're willing to do to keep power." "Sir," Fang growled, his massive frame tense with concern, "at least wear the enhanced body armor." Harrison shook his head. No armor, no bulletproof podium, no visible security measures at all. People need to see that truth doesn't need to hide behind barriers. "Then we'll be your barriers," I said firmly. "But we do this our way. Full security protocols, no compromises." The plaza was a security nightmare. Too many angles, too many buildings, too many places for threats to hide. But it was also packed with something new. Citizens doing their own security sweeps, reporting suspicious activity, watching out for each other. "Look at that," Whiskers said wonderingly as we monitored the crowd. "They're organizing their own security cordons. Regular citizens, protecting each other." Harrison's smile was proud. "They're remembering who they are. What democracy really means. Power doesn't flow from the top down, it flows from the people up." As we moved into position for his speech, I caught fragments of conversation from the crowd. "Did you see the latest smear campaign? They're getting desperate. Must mean Harrison's telling the truth. Those neodogs saved my cousin at the last rally." The mood was different from previous events. Less fear, more determination. These people weren't here just to listen, they were here to take a stand. "Ready, sir?" I asked as we reached the stage. Harrison straightened his tie, checked the scar on his chest one last time and nodded. "Ready. Let's remind them what they're really afraid of." "What's that?" Nova asked. "An awakened public," Harrison replied, "and the truth they can no longer hide." As he stepped onto the stage, the roar from the crowd was deafening. Our enemies had tried bullets, lies, and fear. None of it had worked. Now came their last chance to stop him before the election. Let them try. This time, they weren't just facing neodogs and security teams. They were facing the people themselves, and the people had seen enough. The crowd fell silent as Harrison approached the podium. No security barriers, no bulletproof glass, just a man and his truth, protected by a team of loyal neodogs and the watchful eyes of thousands of citizens. "My fellow citizens of Earth and her colonies," Harrison began, his voice strong despite his recent injury. "In 2 weeks you will make a choice, not just between candidates, but between truth and lies, between freedom and control, between real security and fearful submission." I maintained my position near the stage, every enhanced sense on high alert. Nova and Fang patrolled the perimeter while Whiskers monitored our detection systems. But something was different today. The crowd itself was watching, alert, engaged. "You know," Harrison continued, "there's a famous quote about elections, one that our friends in the media will no doubt have a field day with me sharing. Joseph Stalin once said, 'Those who vote decide nothing. Those who count the votes decide everything.'" A murmur ran through the crowd. On our tactical displays, I could already see news algorithms picking up the quote, preparing their hit pieces. Harrison smiled. "Oh yes, I can see the headlines now. Harrison quotes dictator. Dangerous radical reveals true colors." But here's the thing. I'm quoting Stalin not because I agree with him, but because his words perfectly describe what our current leaders believe. The crowd grew absolutely still, hanging on every word. You see, Stalin wasn't giving advice. He was revealing the playbook of all dictators. The same playbook being used right now by those who would steal your voice, who would count your votes in secret, who would silence anyone who questions their power. Whisker's voice came through our comms. "Sir's getting a lot of attention online. The quote is spreading fast." "Look at their actions," Harrison pressed on. "When faced with questions about corruption, what did they do? Did they answer openly? No. They tried to silence the questioners. When faced with evidence of their crimes, what did they do? They didn't defend themselves. They tried to kill the messenger." He touched the spot on his chest where the sniper's bullet had struck. "I stand before you today without armor or barriers because I trust in the truth. I trust in you, the people. And yes, I trust in these loyal neo-dogs who represent everything our corrupt leaders fear: dedication to truth, unwavering loyalty to the people rather than power, and the courage to stand against tyranny." "Movement on the north roof," Novo reported quietly. "Could be nothing, could be something," I finished. "Stay alert." "They will try to twist my words," Harrison continued. "They will say that quoting Stalin proves their propaganda about me. But ask yourselves, who actually follows Stalin's playbook? The man standing before you, openly, trusting in the people? Or those who hide in shadows, who kill to keep secrets, who would control the counting of your votes?" The crowd's response was thunderous. They understood exactly what he was saying. "I stand before you as a simple candidate asking for your vote. They stand in darkness, preparing to steal it. I quote Stalin to warn you of their methods. They quote security to justify their control. I trust you to see the truth. They trust only in your fear." Whisker's voice was excited. "Sir, this is amazing. People are already making memes comparing the government's actions to Stalin's quote. They're getting it." "Remember," Harrison's voice grew more intense. "In 2 weeks they will try to steal your voice. They will count votes in secret, declare results that serve their power, and call anyone who questions them a threat to security, just as they called me a threat for questioning their corruption, just as they called these loyal neo-dogs a threat for protecting the truth." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But Stalin was wrong about one thing. Those who count the votes only decide everything if we let them. If we stay silent, if we accept their lies, if we let fear of their power overcome our love of truth." The plaza had become so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Every eye was fixed on Harrison, every ear straining to catch his words. "I'm not asking you just to vote. I'm asking you to watch, to record, to stand witness, to make sure that those who count the votes remember that they answer to those who cast them." The roar that went up from the crowd was like nothing I'd ever heard. Not approval or agreement, but determination, resolution, purpose. Our tactical displays lit up with social media activity. Harrison's message was spreading faster than any algorithm could suppress it. The truth was breaking free. Let them try to twist his words. Let them spin their propaganda. The people had heard the truth. The first sign that something was wrong came not from our security systems, not from our enhanced senses, but from the crowd itself. "Look!" someone shouted. In the maintenance uniform, my head snapped toward the direction of the voice. A man in workers' coveralls was pushing through the crowd, hand reaching inside his jacket. But before we could even move, something extraordinary happened. The crowd acted. "Get him!" came a shout, and suddenly the would-be assassin was surrounded by civilians. A construction worker tackled him from behind. A grandmother swung her handbag with surprising force. A teenage girl kicked the weapon from his hand. "Threat contained, West Sector," Nova reported, already moving to secure the area. The crowd has him pinned." Harrison, never missing a beat in his speech, allowed himself a small smile. "Look at that," he said into the microphone. "Look at what they fear most. Not just neo-dogs or security teams, but you, the people themselves, awake and aware." I reached the scene just as Fang helped the civilians secure the assassin. The man's face was a mask of shock. He clearly hadn't expected resistance from his soft civilian targets. "Whiskers," I barked into our comm. "Full scan. This can't be their only play." "Already on it," our tech expert replied, getting some weird readings from his equipment. "This is high-end stuff, Rex. Military grade, but modified?" The construction worker who'd made the initial tackle stood up, brushing off his clothes. "Been waiting for something like this," he said grimly. "Saw what they did to the colonel last time. Not happening again. Not on our watch." All around the plaza, I could see people organizing themselves, forming impromptu security cordons, watching the rooftops and windows. They weren't just audience members anymore. They were participants. "Sir?" Detective Morrow's voice came through our secure channel. "You need to see what we found on him. This isn't just another assassin. This guy's connected, really connected." "How connected?" I asked, examining the sophisticated equipment we'd taken from the would-be killer. "Let's just say his comm unit has encryption that's only supposed to exist in certain very high places. Places with lots of flags and official seals." Harrison's voice continued to ring out over the plaza. "They thought they could silence truth with violence, but they forgot something important. Truth doesn't need guards or guns. Truth just needs people brave enough to see it and share it." The assassin, now secured by proper restraints, glared up at me. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," he spat. "The power they have." "The power they're losing," I corrected him. "Look around. Look what you're really fighting. Not just neo-dogs or security teams, but humanity itself." Whisker's excited voice cut through our comms. "Rex, the encryption on his equipment, it's failing. Some kind of dead man switch must have triggered when he was caught. I'm getting names, dates, communication logs." "Secure everything," I ordered. "Every byte of data. Get it to Detective Morrow immediately." The crowd had resumed listening to Harrison's speech, but there was a new energy in the air. They had faced down a threat themselves, had proven they weren't helpless spectators in this fight. "Multiple vehicles approaching," Nova reported. "Government plates. Looks like they're trying to extract their asset before we can question him." "Too late," Fang growled with satisfaction. "Evidence is already copying to secure servers. Let them try to bury this one." Harrison's voice rose over the plaza. "Look at what you've done today. Look at how you've proven that the power of the people is stronger than all their schemes and lies." The assassin's face had gone pale as he realized what was happening, how completely his mission had failed, how much evidence was now exposed. "Your masters can't help you now," I told him quietly. "But you can help yourself. Detective Morrow will be very interested in what you have to say about who really gave you those orders." As official vehicles screeched to a halt at the plaza's edge, As Harrison's voice continued to rally the crowd, as our evidence servers filled with undeniable proof of high-level corruption, I felt a surge of fierce pride, not just in our team's performance, but in the people themselves. They had become what our enemies feared most, active participants in their own democracy, unwilling to stand by while truth was attacked. The assassin had failed, the crowd had risen, the truth had won, and this was just the beginning. "The encryption is military-grade plus," Whiskers reported, his whiskers twitching with excitement as data streamed across his screens. "Not just military, we're talking cabinet-level security protocols, the kind only top government officials are supposed to have." We had secured a temporary command post near the plaza, where Detective Morrow was coordinating with her most trusted officers to process the evidence. The would-be assassin was in custody. Real custody, not the kind where evidence conveniently disappears. "Look at these communication logs," Nova said, highlighting a series of messages. "Direct links to personal devices in the Legislative Council chambers. Time-stamped during sessions when they were discussing election security measures." Harrison, still energized from his speech, leaned forward to study the data. "They got sloppy, started thinking they were untouchable." "Pride comes before the fall," Detective Morrow said grimly. "And this is one hell of a fall. We've got payment authorizations, direct orders, communication chains leading right to the top." I felt my fur bristle as I saw some of the names involved. These aren't just random corrupt officials. These are the ones who pushed hardest for the anti-Neodog legislation, the ones who called us security threats. "Of course they did," Harrison nodded. "They needed a distraction, something to keep people afraid while they consolidated power. What better than enhanced canines? Appeal to fear of the different, the enhanced, the loyal." Fang, who had been watching the plaza feeds, spoke up. "Sir, you need to see this. The news is starting to break." On screens across human space, the story was exploding. Even media outlets that had consistently supported the government couldn't ignore this evidence. The encryption signatures alone proved high-level involvement. Breaking news. Assassination attempt links to government officials. Top-level encryption found on failed assassin's equipment. Alex integrity questions surge as evidence reveals official involvement. "They'll try to spin it," Nova warned. "They still control most of the major networks." "Let them try," Harrison smiled. "Look at social media. Look at the independent feeds. People are sharing everything. The attack, the crowd's response, the evidence. They can't suppress all of it." Detective Morrow's computer pinged with new data. "This is interesting," she said, studying the screen. "The assassin's starting to talk. Seems he doesn't appreciate being abandoned by his employers." The evidence was damning. Communications showing direct orders for previous assassination attempts, financial records revealing millions in dark money movements, and most importantly, detailed plans for election manipulation. "They're already trying to contain it," Whiskers reported, monitoring official channels. "Emergency meetings being called, lots of secure communications being purged." "Too late," I growled with satisfaction. "We've got it all. Every delete command just makes another copy on our secure servers." Harrison straightened, his wound apparently forgotten in the excitement. "Get everything to every news outlet, every social channel, every colony network. Let them try to suppress it all." "Sir," Nova said cautiously, "they'll come at you hard for this. They've got nothing left to lose now." "Good," Harrison replied. "Let them show everyone exactly who they are. Let them prove everything I've been saying about corruption and control." The plaza was still full of people, now watching the news break on their devices, sharing evidence faster than any algorithm could suppress it. The truth was spreading like wildfire through human space. "Look at these polling updates," Whiskers said wonderingly. "Support for election monitoring is skyrocketing. People are organizing their own observation teams, planning to record and stream every voting station." Harrison nodded with satisfaction. That's what they really feared. Not just losing an election, but losing control, losing the ability to manipulate from the shadows. Detective Morrow's face was grim but satisfied. "This is what we needed. Proof that can't be buried or spun. proof that shows exactly who's really threatening security. As we watched the evidence spread, as we saw the public's reaction build, I felt a fierce pride, not just in our team's success, but in the people themselves. They had risen to protect Harrison. They had helped catch his would-be killer. Now they were ensuring the truth couldn't be hidden. "Sir," I said, "what's our next move?" Harrison's smile was tired but determined. "Now? Now we keep pushing, keep sharing truth, keep showing people what real security looks like, not control from above, but protection from within, from loyal guardians, both human and neo-dog." The election was still 2 weeks away. Our enemies were exposed but not defeated. They would strike back harder than ever. But something had changed. The people were awake now, aware, involved. They had seen the truth, and they wouldn't unsee it. Let our enemies come. Let them try their worst. Let them show everyone exactly who they really are. The truth was out. The people were watching, and the dogs of war stood ready. The real fight for democracy was just beginning. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a like and to subscribe if you'd like to see more. Feel free to comment and share it as well. With all that said, go on and check out the video in the top left. I think you might like it.